We have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government. Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. There are members.
That's not my question. We can have a policy debate about how we should engage with the UAE.
They're
I
making
just
claims
visited
about
there
corruption,
a few
and
weeks
I'm
ago.
answering that any president in the United States, I don't care who the president is, would have to deal with UAE.
Softball for you. Would you, yes or no, as secretary, find it outrageous for you to solicit or accept a $200,000 Rolls Royce from a foreign government for personal or State Department use?
That offer's never been made to me.
Yes. So you would reject that offer?
The offer of a Rolls Royce?
Yes.
I don't understand the purpose of that question.
You would.
That's a silly question.
The fact that you can't answer the question,
I
Mr.
just
Secretary.
answered
You just caught a snapshot of what now passes for a foreign policy debate in the House. Today we're breaking down Secretary of State Marco Rubio's testimony before the Foreign Affairs Committee, and if nothing else, it was a lesson in composure. Here's the setup. A member of Congress arrives armed with poster boards, clearly aiming for a viral gotcha clip. Representative Sarah Jacobs focuses heavily on concerns about Trump-related crypto ventures and potential conflicts, framing the issue as a threat to U.S. credibility abroad. Meanwhile, Rubio sticks to a broader argument about maintaining strategic relationships and prioritizing national security. At the center of the exchange is a bigger question. Should the United States reconsider ties with a key Middle Eastern ally if there are perceived conflicts of interest involving a president's family business dealings? Jacobs presses that line of inquiry. Rubio counters by emphasizing the importance of long-term alliances and separating diplomatic strategy from domestic political narratives. The contrast in styles is striking. Jacobs leans into pointed hypotheticals and visual props. Rubio responds with a measured, policy-focused tone, repeatedly steering the conversation back to geopolitical realities and U.S. interests. Let's take a closer look at the full exchange and break down how each side approached the debate and what it says about the state of foreign policy discussions on Capitol Hill.
Support forces, a militia, is committing a genocide in Sudan. Is that correct?
We're very concerned about what both sides are doing, frankly, but the RSF in particular.
Correct. I agree with that. You also said as part of that all of our engagement with the UAE, we need to raise the fact that they are openly supporting an entity that is carrying out a genocide. And yet, President Trump continues to arm the UAE. In fact, he just blew through Ranking Member Meek's congressional hold on over $1 billion in arms sales, ignoring this committee's longstanding role as an independent check on major arms sales. And we can have a policy debate here about the merits of continuing to arm the UAE or not, despite this genocide. I had that same conversation with Secretary Blinken, but actually I want to talk about the events that led up to that decision. So on April 30th, the Trump Organization, which Donald Trump still owns, unveiled plans to build an 80-story Trump Tower in Dubai. Then on May 1st, Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, secured a $2 billion deal with an Emirati company with deep ties to the government. And only 11 days later, on May 12th, your department notified our committee that it would ignore Ranking Member Meek's holds on UAE arms sales. Secretary Rubio, we have a president who is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government-backed company at the same time he is selling lethal weapons to that same government. Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
I think no matter who was president, they would have to deal with the UAE. We have to. There are members.
That's not my question. We can have a policy debate about how we should engage with the UAE.
They're
I
making
just
claims
visited
about
there a
corruption,
few
and
weeks
I'm
ago.
answering that any president in the United States, I don't care who the president is, would have to deal with UAE. They're a member of the Abraham Accords, number one. They've been incredibly cooperative on a bunch of other issues. We don't agree with them on 100%. We have concerns about some of the things they do, but this is called the balancing of foreign policy.
Secretary
It is in
Rubio,
our
I
national
don't
interest
disagree with
to have
you.
a good relationship with the UAE, despite the fact that there are things we do we don't like.
Secretary Rubio, I don't disagree with you. I just visited the UAE a couple weeks ago and had these very same conversations there, but I don't think this is a complicated question. President Trump is personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who is enabling a genocide. Policy aside, are you really saying you don't think this is a conflict of interest?
No, you're making claims. The president's family owns a business, and they can conduct business anywhere in the world they want. The president's never once raised business deals in UAE when talking about it. Any president would have to have a relationship with the UAE.
Secretary Rubio,
the
that's
previous
just
administration
silly.
had one too.
President Trump has retained his ownership of these companies, and I have an image right here from World Liberty Financial's website So the idea that President Trump is not the face of the brand of this company on top from benefiting from them, and it literally says on the website that Mr. Trump and his family members own a 60% stake in this company, that's silly. So we can talk about the policy merits. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you believe it's a conflict of interest to have a president personally profiting from a deal with a foreign government while selling weapons to that same government who's enabling a genocide?
I don't accept the premise of your question. I think this has nothing to do with personally benefiting from anything. This has to do with the fact that in order to conduct foreign policy in the Middle East, you're going to have to deal with the UAE.
Mr.
And
Secretary,
have to have
this is
deals
a
in place
clear
with the UAE.
conflict of interest, and anyone with any common sense can see that. The president is personally benefiting from billions of dollars of deals, and he doesn't care at all about the people of Sudan who are experiencing famine and genocide. It's shocking to me that you can't admit that. It's clear that you seem more concerned about staying in Trump's good graces than sticking up for human rights and American values that you once were a champion for. With that, I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to Representative Olszewski.
Well, you make these claims about staying in good graces. You accuse people of being
Reclaiming my time,
corrupt.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I
to
appreciate
do
a
UAE.
softball
We
for
have
you,
to-
yes or no, since I don't have a lot of time, and I appreciate it. The chairman gives me a few seconds back. Softball for you. Would you, yes or no, as Secretary, find it outrageous for you to solicit or accept a $200,000 Rolls Royce from a foreign government for personal or State Department use?
That offer's never been made.
Right as the clock runs out, Jeff Jackson jumps in with a Rolls-Royce hypothetical. It felt less like a congressional hearing and more like a high school debate exercise designed for a viral clip. Let's unpack the exchange. First, Sarah Jacobs and the poster boards. When lawmakers bring visual props into a hearing, it often signals they're aiming to make a public point as much as question a witness. Jacobs tried to connect a Dubai real estate deal to broader concerns about U.S. policy and humanitarian crises, including Sudan. That's a serious charge, but it's also a complex chain of causation that requires more than a visual aid to fully substantiate. Rubio's response centered on realpolitik. He emphasized that geopolitics is often about imperfect choices and strategic trade-offs. He pointed to the UAE's role in the Abraham Accords, widely regarded as a significant diplomatic breakthrough in the Middle East in recent years, and argued that long-standing alliances can't simply be discarded over political controversy. On the conflict of interest issue, Jacobs pressed concerns about optics and ethics when business dealings overlap with foreign policy relationships. Rubio countered by stressing continuity. Every administration, regardless of party, has had to work with the UAE because of its strategic importance. His argument was essentially that diplomacy doesn't pause for domestic political disputes. Then came the luxury plane and Rolls-Royce hypotheticals, clearly designed to test principles around ethics and influence. Supporters of Rubio would say he stayed disciplined and focused on national security priorities rather than getting pulled into speculative scenarios. Critics might argue that hypotheticals are a legitimate way to probe ethical boundaries. At its core, this exchange reflects a broader tension in U.S. foreign policy debates: how to balance strategic alliances with concerns about corruption, optics, and moral consistency. It's not a simple question, and both sides framed it through very different lenses.